Good morning, students. Today I am going to continue the topic poetry. So, as people began to grow grains, they needed utensils to store their plant produce. In beginning, people made large clay pots with the help of the potter's wheel, wove basket or dug pits into the ground to store the grain. Around this time, Neolithic people perhaps accidentally discovered that if they baked clay in fire, it became waterproof. So what happened as the people started to grow the grain? So they felt it necessary to store the grain, and to store the grain they felt the need of some utensils. So what they did in the beginning, they started to make the utensils of they started to make the clay pots with the help of the potter wheel, or wove baskets or dig pits in the ground, and they used to store the grain in these things. Around this time only, accidentally the Neolithic people discovered that if the clay pot is baked in the fire, it becomes waterproof. So baked pottery was useful for storing liquid and cooking. So it was very useful, or it was very helpful that the baked pottery was used by the people for storing liquid and for cooking foods. Although early pottery was rather bare, later people began to paint their pots with different colors and patterns. So initially at the beginning, the potteries were simply baked in the fire, but later the people started to paint the pots with a different color and a different pattern, like we can see one of the pots shown here. Now, tools. Stone tools have been found at many early farming sites, but they are slightly different from the earlier Paleolithic age. Though they were still made of stone, they were far better and sharper. Neolithic tools were shaped and polished, and they lasted longer. Besides hunting, Neolithic tools were used for other purposes. Stone axe, sickle, and plows were particularly used at this time. Arrows were used for hunting. So many types of tools were also found in the new Paleolithic that were different from the Paleolithic tools. They were still made of the stones, but they were far better than that of the earlier Paleolithic age. They were better and sharper. Further, Neolithic tools were shaped of the very good shape, and they were polished, and they lasted for a longer period of time. Beside hunting, Neolithic tools were used for the other purposes. Stone axe, sickle, and plows were particularly used at this time. Further, arrow was used for hunting. Now, next is social practice and religious belief. Neolithic people, what they did, they lived in the social groups called tribes. Groups of the family usually related to each other and living together in the villages were known as tribes. So the Neolithic people started to live in a small group that was called tribe, and the group of the families that were related to each other and lived together in a village, they were called the tribes. Now, in order to make life smooth, tribes usually had a leader, often the oldest and the strongest man in the village, who was obeyed by the other. Within a tribe, there was usually some kind of division of labor. Some people, usually men, tilled the land, hunted or looked after animals. Women also did agriculture work, looked after crops, and helped in harvest. Tribes had their own language, forms of music, and religious belief. To early people, death was mystery. When someone died, she or he was buried with all his or her personal weapons, tools, and pottery. Excavations have revealed Neolithic burial sites in Bazahom in Kashmir. So, the people living together, they were known as tribes. Now, to make the life smooth, in the olden time, the people made leaders in their group, and usually the leader was the oldest and the strongest male person who whom everyone respected or obeyed. Further, within the tribe there was some kind of the labor division. Some people used to till the land, some used to hunt, and some used to look after the animal. Whereas women also did some works like agriculture and looking after the crop and helping in the harvest of the crop. Further, all type of tribes have had their own languages and their own form of music and the religious belief. To the people of the olden time, of the Neolithic time, the death was a mystery, as the people did not knew what the death was. So, with the dead people, they used to bury all his or her belongings like weapons, tools, and pottery. These things can be made out from an excavation that has been found in the Birza home in Kashmir. Thank you. Tomorrow we will continue with a case study of Northwest and Northeast. Thank you.